She believed she was too fat to be loved, until a white billionaire saw the beauty she couldn't see in herself. In glamorous California, two wounded hearts from opposite worlds find a love that changes everything. But when envy, pride, and insecurity rise, will their love survive the storm or shatter under the weight of doubt? The mirror had never been kind to Emily Johnson. That morning, it was downright cruel. She stood in her bedroom, half-dressed and uncertain, her fingers tugging nervously at the hem of a deep green dress. The fabric was beautiful, flowing, soft, but the woman wearing it couldn't decide if she looked beautiful in it. She turned to the side, frowned, then faced herself again. "Too much of everything," she whispered. The words hit the air like tiny shards of glass. She tried to force a smile, but it broke halfway, trembling on her lips. Her reflection stared back. Full cheeks, rich brown skin glowing beneath morning light, and soft curls cascading over her shoulders. To anyone else, she might have looked radiant. To Emily, she looked like a woman who didn't belong in the dress she'd dreamed of wearing. On her dresser, her phone buzzed. Donald Arthur, her best friend, had texted again. "If you're not ready in 15 minutes, I'm coming over to drag your fine self out the door. And don't argue with me. I'm wearing glitter today." Emily chuckled despite herself. Donald had that effect, loud, loyal, and utterly impossible to ignore. She typed back, "You and that glitter should stay out of my business." A moment later, his reply popped up. "Girl, I am your business. Now fix that lipstick and let the world see who they've been sleeping on." She sighed, slipping into her shoes. Tonight was her first real art show, a small downtown exhibition where local artists could display their work. She'd painted a single piece, a haunting abstract self-portrait titled Unseen. It was her story on canvas, a swirl of color and shadow, beauty and loneliness, all colliding into something painfully human. As she tied her scarf, she whispered to her reflection, "Just get through tonight. Don't expect anything magical." The cafe smelled like cinnamon and espresso, and the air buzzed with early morning chatter. Emily balanced a tray of cappuccinos, weaving between tables with practiced grace. It wasn't her dream job, but it paid the bills, barely. "Emily," her manager called, snapping his fingers. "Make sure your shirt is tucked in properly, okay? You're representing the shop." He said it with that tone, the one that wasn't quite rude, but wasn't kind either. Emily gave a polite nod. "Yes, Mr. Sanders." As he walked away, she exhaled quietly. She'd learned to pick her battles, and to hide her hurt behind professionalism. A young couple near the window whispered to each other, glancing at her before laughing softly. She pretended not to notice, though her chest tightened. When the rush finally slowed, Donald appeared at the counter, wearing a vibrant yellow shirt that could have powered a small city. "Look at my favorite artist/barista," he declared dramatically. "You ready for tonight, Miss Johnson?" Emily rolled her eyes. "Barely. I already regret saying yes to the show." "Excuse me?" Donald gasped. "Regret? Honey, this is your moment. You think Beyoncé regrets stepping on stage. I'm not Beyoncé. Not with that attitude you're not," he shot back. "You're Emily Johnson, the brushstroke queen, the melanin muse, the—" Okay. She laughed, lowering her voice as customers turned to stare. "Please don't make a scene." Donald leaned across the counter, his eyes softening. "You've spent too many years hiding behind your doubts. You deserve to be seen, Em." Her throat tightened. He always knew the right words. "Yeah," she murmured. "Maybe." "Not maybe," he corrected. "Definitely." By evening, downtown Los Angeles glowed beneath a tapestry of city lights. Emily's nerves buzzed like static as she stepped into the small but elegant art gallery. Polished concrete floors. Ambient jazz. Conversations laced with laughter and champagne. She felt wildly out of place. Donald, of course, fit right in, greeting strangers like he owned the building. "Emily Johnson," he announced, ushering her toward her corner display. "Here she is, folks, the artist behind Unseen. Prepare to have your souls rearranged." Emily swatted him lightly. "Stop that." But when she turned to see her painting hanging beneath a soft spotlight, her breath caught. It was her, but not her. The figure in the portrait was faceless, a silhouette of emotion. Strong yet fragile, surrounded by abstract eyes that seemed to judge and admire all at once. People were stopping to stare. Some whispered. Some nodded thoughtfully. Then one man didn't move. He stood there, tall and quiet, his posture composed but his eyes alive, a storm of thought behind them. He was dressed in a tailored charcoal suit, his brown hair swept back with casual precision. Nathaniel Whitmore. She didn't know him yet, but she would. He studied her work with the kind of focus that made her uneasy. Not because it was intense, but because it felt real. Emily approached carefully. "You've been staring for a while," she said lightly. He turned, and their eyes met for the first time. His voice was calm, deep, and unexpectedly warm. "Sorry," he said. "It's powerful. I didn't mean to stare." "Powerful," she echoed, surprised. He nodded. "It feels like it's talking to me." She blinked, half amused. "It's just paint on canvas." He smiled faintly. "No, it's not." Something in the way he said it, quietly, with conviction, made her heart skip. Then Donald swooped in like a thunderstorm. "Excuse me, sir, but this piece is not for sale. The artist is priceless." Emily groaned. "Donald," Nate chuckled. "I'll take your word for it." He extended a hand. "Nathaniel Whitmore." Her brows lifted. "The Nathaniel Whitmore?" "As in, the tech billionaire who created Neuralite." He shrugged modestly. "I prefer Nate." Emily crossed her arms, defensive instinct kicking in. "Let me guess. Here to find an investment piece for your penthouse?" "Actually," he said, "I came to feel something. And your work made me feel human again." That silenced her. For a moment, the noise of the gallery faded. There was only the sound of her own heartbeat. Then she forced a polite smile. "Well, that's a first. Usually, people say it's too depressing." "Truth isn't depressing," Nate replied softly. "It's just real." Before she could respond, someone called his name from across the room. A business partner, perhaps. He nodded to her. "It was nice meeting you, Emily." "Yeah," she managed. "You too." And just like that, he was gone. Later that night, Emily returned to her tiny apartment overlooking the city. Her shoes came off the moment the door closed. She stood before the mirror again, that same merciless reflection, but something was different this time. Her cheeks were still round, her arms still soft, her body still hers, but there was something else in her eyes now. Something that felt almost like pride. On her kitchen table sat the small thank you card she'd been given for participating in the exhibit. She picked it up and smiled faintly, until a folded note slipped out from between the papers. Her heart jumped. The handwriting was elegant, masculine. "You are not unseen. Your art made me remember what it feels like to be warm again. N.W." She pressed the note to her chest, feeling her pulse thrum beneath her fingers. Outside, the city glowed, loud, careless, alive. But inside her tiny apartment, something quiet and extraordinary began to bloom. Hope. And though she didn't know it yet, that note would change everything. The next morning, sunlight streamed through Emily's blinds, scattering gold across her studio walls. She sat at her small table, a mug of coffee cooling beside her, the note from Nate Whitmore resting like a secret near her paintbrushes. She hadn't stopped thinking about him. Not his money, not his fame, but the way he'd looked at her art, like it was the most human thing he'd seen in years. She'd even Googled him, though she wouldn't admit that to anyone, not even Donald. Articles painted him as a visionary tech genius, a man who built his billion-dollar empire before 35. There were also rumors, a divorce, a few icy red carpet photos with his ex-wife, Victoria Lane, the fashion influencer whose smile looked like it had been sculpted for cameras. Emily sighed, pushing her laptop aside. Men like Nate Whitmore didn't exist in her world. They belonged to a realm of polished shoes, private jets, and boardroom deals, not chipped mugs and paint-stained hands. Still, the note was real, and the way he'd said her art made him feel human again. That lingered. By noon, the cafe was bustling. Emily was behind the counter, trying to focus on cappuccinos instead of billionaires. The bell over the door jingled, and there he was, Nate Whitmore, in her cafe, wearing a simple gray sweater, jeans, and a smile that didn't belong in a place that smelled like burnt toast. Emily blinked, certain she was imagining things. He walked up to the counter, his presence calm but commanding. "Hi," he said softly. "You remember me?" Her laugh was awkward. "Kinda hard to forget the guy who left a handwritten note about my soul." He smiled. "Glad it didn't creep you out." "It was unexpected, she admitted, sliding his order pad toward him. So what'll it be? A cappuccino with a side of deep introspection. Actually, he said, leaning slightly on the counter, I came to talk about a job. A job? Yes. I want to commission you to paint something for my company headquarters. Emily blinked, certain she'd misheard. Wait, your company? Neuralite. He nodded. We're renovating our offices. I want a mural, something real, emotional. Something like your piece at the gallery. Her mind scrambled. You want me to paint in your billion-dollar building? Why not? He asked simply. Art shouldn't only live in museums. It should live where people work, think, create. Emily hesitated. She'd never done something that big, literally or symbolically. What if I mess it up? He smiled faintly. Then we'll repaint. But I doubt you will. There it was again, that quiet confidence, that belief she didn't yet have in herself. She scribbled her number on a napkin, sliding it toward him. Fine. Call me when you're serious. He took it, folding it carefully like it was something precious. Oh, I'm serious, he said. More serious than I've been in a long time. 2 days later, Emily found herself standing inside the Neuralite headquarters in downtown Los Angeles. The building was sleek, all glass, chrome, and quiet brilliance. She felt out of place immediately, clutching her sketchbook like armor. Nate was already waiting for her, greeting her at the door with that easy, grounded smile. I'm glad you came. Still not sure why, she muttered. Because you're curious, he said. And because part of you wants to believe you belong here. That hit a nerve, but he wasn't wrong. He led her through wide hallways lined with interactive displays and digital art. This company started with nothing but a dream, he said. I know how it feels to be doubted. Maybe that's why your painting hit me so hard. She looked at him curiously. You? Doubted? He chuckled. Every step of the way. Everyone said I was too idealistic. That's why your art matters. It tells people to feel again. Emily turned to the blank white wall he'd reserved for her mural, a massive expanse of untouched potential. What do you want it to say? She asked. He folded his arms, gazing at it. I want it to say, we're still human. Something in his tone, quiet, reverent, gave her chills. The following weeks blurred into long evenings and late-night sessions at Neuralite. Emily would paint while Nate worked at his glass-walled office nearby. Sometimes he'd step out with 2 cups of coffee, handing her one without a word. They didn't need to talk much. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was full of understanding. She painted emotion, colors colliding, fragments of humanity emerging from abstraction. He watched her create, mesmerized by the rhythm of her brush and the calm intensity in her eyes. One night, as the clock struck midnight, she dropped her brush and sighed. This part never feels right, she muttered. What part? He asked, walking over. The middle, she said. The place between broken and whole. He looked at the wall, the half-finished mural glowing under the studio lights. Maybe that's where we spend most of our lives, he said. In the middle. Their eyes met. Something warm lingered there, unspoken, uncertain. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Emily smiled softly. You're surprisingly poetic for a tech guy. He chuckled. Don't tell anyone. It'll ruin my reputation. Days later, the world found out. It started with one photo, Nate and Emily standing beside the unfinished mural, laughing. Someone from the company had posted it online. Within hours, the tabloids had it. Billionaire Whitmore's new muse? Tech titan spotted with plus-size artist. Is this the woman who stole Nate Whitmore's heart? Emily scrolled through the articles, her stomach twisting. The comments were worse. She's not his type. He's doing charity work, apparently. Imagine being rich and dating your barista. Her phone rang, Donald. Girl, do not read the comments, he said instantly. Too late, she whispered. Emily, people will talk no matter what. You're trending, honey. That means you're important enough to be noticed. She didn't feel important. She felt exposed. That night, she showed up at Neuralite with tears in her eyes and a decision in her heart. Nate looked up from his desk as she entered. Emily? She crossed her arms, her voice shaking. I can't do this. I'm quitting the mural. He frowned. Because of the gossip? Because I can't handle being your headline, Nate, she snapped. People don't see me as an artist. They see me as some charity case you're entertaining. He stood, his expression soft but steady. Is that what you think this is? I don't know what to think, she whispered. You live in a world where image is everything. And me? I don't even fit the frame. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Nate stepped closer, his voice low and calm. Emily, he said, I don't care about image. I care about truth. And the truth is, you're the most real thing I've seen in a very long time. She swallowed hard. You don't have to say that. I'm not saying it because I have to, he said. I'm saying it because I mean it. He turned toward the window, gazing out at the city lights. The world can mock what it doesn't understand. Let them. But don't let them make you smaller than you are. Emily felt tears sting her eyes. You don't get it, she said softly. You're not the one they're calling names. He turned back to her, meeting her gaze. No, I'm the one who gets to remind them that beauty doesn't come with a size limit. Her breath caught. For a long moment, she couldn't speak. Then he smiled gently. Stay. Finish what you started. And somehow she did. Over the next week, Emily painted like she was reclaiming her voice. The mural bloomed across the wall, a blend of color and chaos, depicting hands reaching through darkness toward light. It was messy, raw, breathtaking. When she finally stepped back, brush trembling in her hand, Nate whispered, It's perfect. No, she said quietly. It's honest. They stood there together, the hum of city life echoing below. In that moment, Emily realized she wasn't painting for approval anymore. Not for her boss, not for her critics, not even for Nate. She was painting for herself. And for the first time in years, she felt whole. That night, after the lights went off and everyone left, she stayed behind to add the final stroke. She looked at the mural, a story of struggle, growth, and grace. At the bottom corner, she signed her name slowly, deliberately. Emily Johnson. As she turned to leave, she noticed something taped to the wall, a small, handwritten card. They'll talk. Let them. You keep painting. N.W. Her eyes filled with tears. She pressed her hand against the wall, her art, her truth, and smiled. For the first time, the reflection in her heart didn't whisper too much. It whispered enough. Emily woke up to the sound of ocean waves crashing gently outside her Malibu window. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. The satin sheets felt too soft, the room too bright. Then it hit her. She wasn't in her tiny apartment anymore. She was in Nathaniel Whitmore's guest house. She sat up, heart thudding. Memories of the night before trickled back like fragments of a dream. Nate laughing beside her on the pier, the moonlight reflecting on the water, his hand brushing hers as they shared stories about their pasts. And then, his words soft but steady. Emily, I don't see you the way you see yourself. You're extraordinary. Her hand unconsciously touched her cheek, remembering how her face had burned at his compliment. Now, in the morning light, those words felt both comforting and terrifying. Emily got out of bed and went to the window. The Pacific stretched endlessly before her, sunlight painting ripples of gold across the water. She should have felt at peace, but instead anxiety gnawed at her. What am I doing here? She thought. This isn't my world. I don't belong in his life. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was her best friend, Tasha. Girl, where have you been? Tasha's voice came through sharp and teasing. You disappeared after your exhibit like some kind of mystery woman. Emily sighed, smiling faintly. It's a long story. Try me. And don't you dare say you went home to paint again. Emily hesitated, then said, I'm in Malibu. Nathaniel Whitmore invited me to stay for a few days. The line went silent. Wait, the Nathaniel Whitmore? Billionaire, art collector. Looks like he stepped out of a magazine. That's the one, Emily admitted. Girl. Tasha's voice jumped an octave. Emily, you're living in a romantic drama. Don't tell me he's just a friend. Emily chuckled nervously. He's kind. He makes me feel seen, Tasha. But it's complicated. I don't think I fit in his world. Don't start that again, Tasha snapped gently. You're beautiful, smart, talented, and you're finally getting noticed for it. Don't ruin it by doubting yourself. I'm not doubting myself, Emily murmured, staring at the ocean. I'm doubting what he sees in me. Tasha sighed. You've spent too long letting other people define your worth. Maybe it's time you stopped. Before Emily could respond, she heard a knock on the door. Emily? It was Nate's voice, warm and deep. Gotta go, Emily whispered quickly into the phone. I'll call you later. She tucked her hair behind her ear and opened the door. Nate stood there, wearing a crisp white shirt and rolled-up sleeves, holding 2 cups of coffee. "I thought you might like this," he said with that effortless smile that made her heart trip. "Thank you," she said softly, taking one. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," he replied. "Come on. I thought we could take a walk down to the beach before breakfast. The tide's perfect this morning." Emily hesitated but then followed him outside. The sand was cool beneath their feet, and gulls wheeled overhead. Nate talked about art, his favorite places in Italy, his dream of opening a foundation for young artists who couldn't afford galleries. Emily listened, enchanted. "You really care about helping people," she said quietly. He looked at her. "I care about giving people a chance. I know what it's like to feel invisible, to be told you're not enough." She stopped walking. "You?" Nate smiled faintly. "When I was younger, I wasn't the man people see now. I was quiet, shy, overweight. My father thought I'd never make it in business. He said I didn't have the drive or the look." Emily's heart softened. "And what changed?" "I decided to prove him wrong," he said simply. "But in the process, I lost parts of myself. I started believing success could replace acceptance." He turned to her then, eyes searching hers. "You remind me of something I forgot, that real beauty isn't about perfection. It's about honesty." Emily didn't know what to say. For a moment, their eyes held, and the space between them felt electric. But before anything more could be said, a voice called out behind them. "Nate!" A tall, elegant woman in a designer dress approached from across the sand. Her blonde hair gleamed in the sunlight, and a small diamond pendant sparkled at her throat. Nate's smile faltered. "Lauren!" Emily froze. "Lauren Hart," the woman said smoothly, extending a manicured hand toward Emily. "You must be?" "Emily," she replied, trying to sound calm. Lauren's gaze flicked over her, assessing, the way a critic might examine a painting they didn't quite understand. "Oh, you're the artist." Emily caught the faint edge of disdain under her tone. Nate stepped in quickly. "Lauren, what are you doing here?" "I came by to discuss the gala," Lauren said, not taking her eyes off Emily. "But I didn't expect to find you entertaining guests." Nate sighed. "Lauren, this isn't—" "Relax," Lauren interrupted. "I'm just surprised. You usually prefer more traditional company." The words stung more than Emily wanted to admit. She forced a small smile. "I should probably go get ready for the day." Nate turned toward her. "Emily, wait." But she was already walking back toward the house, her heart twisting painfully in her chest. Back in her room, Emily sank onto the bed. She told herself it didn't matter what Lauren thought, but the woman's words echoed in her mind, sharp and cold. Traditional company. It was a polite way of saying someone like you doesn't belong here. Her reflection in the mirror confirmed every doubt she'd fought so hard to silence. Her full hips, her soft arms, the curve of her stomach. She'd learned to love her body, or at least pretend to, but here, surrounded by a world of thin models and polished perfection, she felt small again. Then came a knock. "Emily?" Nate's voice was gentle. "Can I come in?" She didn't answer right away. "Please," he said. "I just want to explain." She exhaled and opened the door. Nate stood there, guilt etched across his face. "Lauren and we used to date. Years ago. She works with some of my business partners, and she tends to assume she still has influence over me." Emily looked away. "She made it sound like you were still close." "We're not," he said firmly. "But she's part of that world, the one I can't completely escape." "Exactly," Emily whispered. "That's the world I don't belong to." Nate stepped closer. "Don't say that. Emily, you belong anywhere you want to. You've already proven that." She shook her head, voice trembling. "You don't understand. People like Lauren, they'll never see me as someone who fits your life. They'll see me as some charity project." Nate's expression softened with something like pain. "You think that's how I see you?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I don't know what to think anymore." He reached for her hand. "Then let me show you." She didn't pull away, but she didn't look at him either. "I'm hosting the gala tomorrow night," he said quietly. "It's a charity event for the arts. I want you to be there, as my guest." Emily froze. "Nate, I know what you're going to say," he interrupted gently. "But I want people to see the woman who's inspired me more than anyone else in years. I want them to see you the way I do. She looked up at him, torn between fear and hope. You really mean that? I do, he said. Let me handle the rest. For a long moment, neither spoke. The ocean breeze fluttered the curtains, and somewhere outside, the gulls cried again. Finally, Emily nodded. Okay, I'll go. A smile broke across Nate's face, one so genuine it almost made her forget her doubts. Almost. Because deep down, as the sun dipped into the horizon and the Malibu sky turned to shades of violet and gold, Emily couldn't shake the quiet whisper of fear that followed her into the night. What if I'm setting myself up to be broken again? And somewhere far away, in a penthouse suite overlooking Beverly Hills, Lauren Hart was making a phone call, her voice cool and deliberate. Find out everything you can about Emily Johnson, she said. I want to know what makes her think she can stand beside Nathaniel Whitmore. The morning of the gala dawned bright and golden over Malibu. The Pacific shimmered like liquid glass, and the air carried the scent of salt and blooming jasmine. But Emily barely noticed the beauty outside her window. She sat before the mirror, heart pounding, the weight of the coming night pressing down on her chest. She had agreed to go, to stand beside Nathaniel Whitmore in front of California's elite. But now that the moment was here, every insecurity screamed louder than the next. The stylists Nathaniel had sent earlier were miracles in human form. They had chosen a deep emerald green gown that hugged her curves without apology and cascaded to the floor like silk water. Her hair was styled into soft waves, her makeup subtle but radiant. When she looked at her reflection, she almost didn't recognize herself. Miss Johnson, the stylist said softly, fastening a diamond clasp around her wrist. You look breathtaking. Emily smiled faintly. Thank you. But inside, she was trembling. She had faced critics before, art judges, gallery owners, audiences. But tonight was different. Tonight, she wasn't just an artist. She was his guest. The woman everyone would be watching, whispering about, comparing to someone like Lauren Hart. She closed her eyes and whispered, Please don't let me fall apart. Meanwhile, in the main house, Nathaniel adjusted his cufflinks, his jaw set with quiet determination. He had hosted dozens of galas before, each one more extravagant than the last, but none had ever made him this nervous. Tonight wasn't about business deals or publicity. Tonight, he was taking a stand for her. He glanced at his reflection. A man with power, money, and 1,000 reasons to pretend he didn't care about what others thought. But he did. Not for himself, for Emily. Because she deserved to walk into that ballroom and feel like she belonged there. He took a deep breath, then made his way toward the guest house. When Emily stepped out of the doorway, he froze. The emerald gown shimmered under the late afternoon light, and her soft curls framed her face like a halo. Her eyes, shy, uncertain, yet strong, caught his breath in his throat. Emily, he said quietly, you look incredible. Her cheeks flushed. You're just being kind. He shook his head. No, I've seen 1,000 beautiful things in my life. Art, architecture, landscapes. None of them compare to how you look right now. Emily's heart skipped. Nate. He smiled and offered his arm. Shall we? And so they drove to the Beverly Hills Hotel where the gala awaited, a shimmering dream of chandeliers, gold-draped tables, and camera flashes. Inside the grand ballroom, music floated through the air, a live orchestra playing soft jazz. The elite of Los Angeles had gathered, their laughter mixing with the clink of champagne glasses. Nathaniel and Emily entered together, instantly drawing every eye in the room. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Is that her? She's beautiful, but not what I expected. Donald's taste has changed. Emily heard every word. Each one cut like a knife, but she lifted her chin higher. If she was going to drown, she would do it standing tall. Nathaniel guided her toward a group of his colleagues. Everyone, this is Emily Johnson, the artist behind Soul in Motion. A murmur of recognition spread. That's her? The woman who painted those emotion pieces in the Sunset exhibit. They were extraordinary. Nathaniel smiled proudly. She's the reason we raised over $500,000 for youth art programs. For a moment, Emily felt the room shift. The whispers softened. A few faces even showed admiration, until a familiar voice sliced through the warmth. Well, this is unexpected. Lauren Hart glided toward them, a vision in silver satin. Her smile was flawless, her eyes sharp. Lauren, Nathaniel said calmly. I see you made it. Of course, she purred. I wouldn't miss it. The press is buzzing about your date, after all. Emily forced a polite smile. It's a lovely evening. Lauren's gaze flicked to Emily's gown. It's a bold color, she said sweetly. Not everyone can pull off emerald. But you certainly make a statement. Thank you, Emily replied, her voice steady. Nate frowned. Lauren, if you're here to cause trouble. Oh, I wouldn't dream of it, Lauren interrupted smoothly. I just hope you're being careful, Donald. The media can be cruel. She glanced at Emily again. And sometimes so can people. Then she turned and disappeared into the crowd, leaving silence behind her. Emily swallowed hard. She's right, isn't she? People are already judging you for being seen with me. Nate turned to her, his voice firm. Let them judge. I don't care what anyone says. You've given me more truth in a few weeks than most people have in years. She looked up at him, eyes glistening. Why me, Donald? You could be with anyone. He smiled softly. Because anyone wouldn't challenge me to be better. You do. Before she could respond, the lights dimmed and the host took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer said, tonight we honor those who make art possible, and those who remind us of its power to heal and unite. Nate leaned closer. Come with me, he whispered. He led her to the edge of the stage. She blinked, confused. What are you doing? She whispered. He smiled. Something overdue. When the host called his name, Nate stepped up to the microphone, and to Emily's shock, motioned for her to join him. Tonight, Nathaniel began, we celebrate creativity, the courage to turn pain into beauty. For me, that courage has a face. It belongs to Emily Johnson. A murmur spread through the audience. Emily froze. Nathaniel continued, voice steady. When I met Emily, she reminded me what authenticity looks like. Her work doesn't hide behind perfection. It embraces imperfection, just like real life. Just like love. He turned to her. Emily, you've changed how I see the world. And for that, I thank you. The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. Emily's cheeks burned, tears filling her eyes. She wanted to hide, but she couldn't. Donald's words filled her with something she hadn't felt in years, pride. For once, she didn't feel like the outsider. She felt seen. As the applause faded, Nathaniel leaned close. I told you I wanted them to see you the way I do. She smiled through her tears. You did more than that. Later that night, after the gala ended, they walked together beneath the glowing string lights outside the hotel. The music from inside drifted faintly through the open doors. You were incredible tonight, Nate said softly. I was terrified, she admitted with a laugh. But it felt good. For the first time, I didn't hide who I am. He smiled. That's the woman I fell for. Emily stopped walking. You what? Nate stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. I've fallen for you, Emily. Completely. Her heart stilled. Donald, you don't have to say that. I'm not saying it because I have to, he said firmly. I'm saying it because it's true. Tears welled in her eyes again. Not from fear this time, but from something deeper, purer. She reached up and touched his face. I was so sure you'd see me the way everyone else does, as too much or not enough. Nate smiled. You're everything, Emily. You were never too much for the right person. And then he kissed her, slow, tender, unhurried, as if the world around them had stopped just to watch. The lights, the laughter, the ocean breeze, everything faded until it was just them. The next morning, Emily woke to sunlight spilling across her canvas at home. She had returned to her apartment, needing space to think, to breathe. But this time, when she looked around, she didn't feel small. Her phone buzzed. A message from Donald. I'll be in San Francisco for a few days. But I'm already counting down until I see you again. P.S. I bought your latest painting. I think it belongs in my office, a reminder of the woman who taught me what beauty really means. Emily smiled, tears filling her eyes as she typed back. Then I'll paint something new, something even more honest. See you soon. She set her phone down, took a deep breath, and dipped her brush into a swirl of colors, emerald green, golden light, and soft rose. Her strokes were bold, fearless. Because for the first time, Emily wasn't painting to be seen. She was painting from a place of love, for herself, for him, and for the truth that had set her free. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to Boundless Echoes for more interesting stories. We really appreciate your support. Comment where you are watching from, so we can give you a shout out. See you in our next video.